I'm going to tell you a story tonight, and it's a crazy story. You know, it's just one of those very rare moments in your life where in retrospect you're like, what the hell? And at the time you're like, I guess I'll continue living. I don't know. It's like if you went to the dentist and he asked you to take your pants off, and you're just like, I don't know, you know, I'm going to make a note of this. This seems strange. I was always discouraged from telling personal stories growing up. I always heard the phrase, don't tell anyone. But not about creepy things. I don't want to lead you down the wrong path. My dad wasn't the dentist or whatever. It would be sort of about insignificant things, like I wouldn't make the soccer team. My father would be like, don't tell anyone. I was like, they're gonna know. When they show up to the games and I'm not on the team and I'm crying. One time I confronted my dad about this, which is tough with my dad because he's a very serious guy. He's a doctor. He's a neurologist, actually. No, he always sits in this one armchair in our house and reads these thick books. My dad goes through war novels like I go through boxes of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Quickly and aggressively, passionately, and he's just the kind of guy who knows stuff, which is intimidating for someone like me who knows nothing. Because my fear when speaking with someone who knows stuff is that it'll reveal and accentuate that I know nothing. And obviously, I don't know nothing. You know, no one knows nothing. It's just the levels of things we know are very different. You know, my dad knows about the hemispheres of the brain. And I know that if I spill Diet Coke on my laptop, it probably won't start again, you know? And that's why my dad was so disappointed that I became a comedian. You know, he worked his whole life to send me to college so I would learn stuff. And I didn't. And I got a job making fun of him in front of strangers. So that whole plan kind of backfired. But one time I built up the courage to ask him, I say, hey, how come you play everything so close to the vest? And my father says, the more people know about you, the more they can use it against you. Which really sent shivers down my spine. It has that kind of open-ended fear to it. You know that feeling you have when you're driving and you see a cop and you're not speeding, you don't have drugs, but you're just like, I hope he doesn't notice I'm driving. 10 and 2, sitting upright, you know. Well, as guarded as my father, as my mother is open, I mean, she'll say anything to anyone in any context. I was visiting them recently, and I met her at the bank, and she'd been talking to the bank teller for 15 minutes about really personal stuff, and I walked in right at the end, and all I heard her say was, and here he is now! And I was like, oh, no, this is a disaster. She's a talker, and I love talking to my mom. You know, we'll talk on the phone for 15 minutes or 2 hours, but at the end of it, no matter what, she'll always say one more thing. But it's rarely anything that deserves to be one more thing. It's always like, one more thing. Ellen from my swim class bought a rice cooker. I don't know if that deserves to be one more thing, Mom. In long division, that's called a remainder. You save up 17 of those, we'll give you a conversation. She's a talker, and I'm a talker, and that's why we always drove my dad crazy. Whenever we would tell personal stories growing up, my father would say, hush. I'll give you an example. I was a terrible reader as a kid. We used to do these things in grade school in Massachusetts called SRAs. You guys have that? Student reading assignments? Yeah, and what they would do is they would post how many everyone had done on the wall, which is a really good way to squash a child's self-esteem. I remember there was this girl in my class named Jamie Burson, and she finished 147 of these things before I finished 2.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?